So Timex has just sent me this. They sent me an email asking if I wanted to see some of their new collections. And of course, for the purposes of this channel, it makes sense for me to say yes. And I thought we could take a look at them together. Unfortunately, I don't know which of the new collections is in here. This is basically a mystery box because I replied to the email and yeah, I never ever heard back from them. But I'm not complaining. It makes for an exciting video, I guess. So hopefully none of this is under embargo. Pretty fancy like sample box this. I doubt that most watches ship in this. Okay, so we've got a Timex and a Timex with lots of warnings on: ingestion hazard, death and chemical burns. I'm not sure if this is like region specific, but in the UK, watches don't normally ship with this on, saying that, you know, you're gonna die or swallow it. Or at least it's not on the outside of the box like this. So yeah, let's hope I don't die during the filming of this video. Let's take a look at the big box first. I suspect they will have sent me some of the limited edition watches, which is one of the reasons I set up this channel, because my main channel, it's tricky to justify covering the limited edition watches when by the time I've made the video normally, given that my videos take so long to make, the watch is normally sold out and then not any of you can get one, so what's the point? But yeah, maybe this will actually be worth it. Okay, aha. Now this is a funny coincidence. So I saw the email for this watch, and this is the 1971 Velocity reissue, I think it is. This is tricky, I better watch out. I don't want to get chemical burns. I suppose they only have the message on because someone must have done it. I mean, must have taken some almighty strength. There we are. So here we have the 1971. And the funny thing with this watch is I actually have a poster thing in my studio at the moment, and I pointed it out yesterday because I'd seen the email about this watch and noticed that it was on my poster, the original version of this watch. It's like an advertisement poster, so it's pretty cool. And yeah, I saw this exact watch on there, so it's funny that they should send me this. Now this one looks much smaller than on the ads, which I'm not complaining about because I've got like a child-sized wrist. But yeah, I really thought with this style of case this would look a lot bigger, but it doesn't. In fact, let's get the calipers on that straight away. Can't remember what size they actually advertised this one at. It's about 37.5 wide. Lug to lug is pretty short. Yeah, very short. About 41.5. Fairly slim too. 12.6 with the crystal. Without it, it's about 9. So yeah, it's a fairly heavy dome on that crystal, and I'm pretty sure that is acrylic from feeling that. Yeah, the crystal looks great. The whole thing really does look like a vintage watch, no doubt. And I have to admit, this, you know, it isn't my favorite design out of the Q range, definitely not. I think that the chapter ring, while very 70s and in keeping with the style, and it probably matches the original, it's just a bit too busy for my taste. And the bezel, yeah, it's this like smooth two-way bezel, which I've never been a huge fan of. The smooth bezels. I think if I'm going to have one, I like to be able to like feel like a satisfying click. The case is maybe a tiny bit better than I expected. It looks slightly better finished, especially on the sides, like really nice and shiny on the sides. It's as advertised, you know, 70s style. Let's see what it's like on the wrist. So there it is on my 6¼ inch wrist, and a bit like some of the others recently, I think it does look slightly better on the wrist. I'm just not a huge fan of this type of aesthetic. I think, like a lot of people, some of the more 60s styles are a bit more timeless, whereas this is pretty jazzy, really. I like the size though. I like how some of these brands like Timex aren't afraid to play with the sizes, sometimes have smaller pieces, sometimes have larger pieces. They don't just gun straight down the middle at like 41mm every single time. Strap's good. Strap tends to be good from Timex. It's just these rally style bands, which goes with the racing theme. You just have to be aware that the holes are pretty far apart. So even though I got lucky again with this one, which is unlike me, you might not be so lucky. Also a minor nitpick here, you know, quick release tabs, they're standard really at this point, whereas you would need a special spring bar tool for this, and you just risk scratching the watch, which is a shame, you know, especially given that some of these Q watches, they do end up costing more than the cheaper end standard quartz watches. I think that should just be a staple personally. Screwed rear, easy access battery hatch is good to have. 50-meter water resistance, that's reasonable. So yeah, I mean, if you really want like a vintage look watch, this is one. I wonder how much this is currently retailing for. So this one's currently retailing for £165 in the UK, which I think is a bit steep. I mean, obviously with Timex, you can get the discount codes a fair amount of the time, but sometimes they don't apply to the special models or limited edition models. You know, I'd prefer this if it were maybe 129, I would say. I think that would make it much more tempting, maybe even 119. I'll link this one in the video description. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Let's check out the second one. I wonder which one this is. Oh, okay, so this is the Marlin chronograph, I think, and it's in a unusual color. This is in like a kind of peachy. There we go. Now I've been liking some of these new Marlin style watches. I think my favorite color is the green ones, which I haven't been able to really get my hands on yet. And I also noticed there was another one that released. I'm not sure it was this one. It might have been one with like a moon phase or something, and it looked really like an Orient Bambino. But yeah, this is the one with kind of like the 20s or 30s themed indexes there at 12, 3, and 9. Relatively chunky, but from square on it doesn't look that way. Ah, it's mecha quartz as well, I believe. Feels mecha quartz. I'll quickly check the details on this before we look at sizing. So this is the Marlin chronograph tachymeter, they're calling it on the site, and you know, it isn't a spec monster. This is only acrylic crystal again. So you do get the authentic kind of retro vibe at the cost of scratch resistance, but you can polywatch it to get rid of scratches. The strap says eco-friendly, genuine leather. It feels okay. I'd say middle of the road. Not great, not bad. At least this one does come with the quick release tabs, which, you know, it should really be standard at a watch over 80 or 90 pounds these days. Online it just says quartz chronograph. I mean, to me, it looks and feels mecha quartz, so I might have to take the back off this one and just quickly check it to see what movement it actually uses, because they don't specify. I think it just says Japanese movement, so yeah, let's see which one they're using. Dial is pretty nice, especially the subdials. The subdials have got like an extra shine to them. Let's check the size in case I destroy it. 40 on the nose wide, lug to lug, 48 millimeters exactly. If they're targeting a certain size, at least they're very accurate with it. About 13.3 tall with the crystal. It's a very tall crystal. I think without it, it's maybe about 9 millimeters. Doesn't appear to have any luminescence either, so it's certainly one for those more after like a fashionable watch as opposed to one for pure function. That's a look at it on my arm, 6¼ inch wrist as always, so this will probably fit most people very well. Not so much for me, it's maybe a little bit big for my wrist. I probably can't quite get away with that. Well, there's a quick look at it. Doesn't actually feel super thick when it's on the wrist, even though it looks it when holding the case by itself. Strap is okay. Maybe be tempted to chuck a black strap on this. I never thought I'd say that. Let's crack the back off and see what we're working with. Well, I won't be able to show you the whole process, but this is what I'm using. A great bit of kit, by the way. Very pricey, but it certainly works for clumsy people like me.
One eternity later.
So here's the big reveal. I haven't actually looked in yet. It is a... Is that TMI I can see there? Yeah, it's a VK63. So VK63 is a mecha quartz. So the movement is perhaps a bit more advanced than the web listing suggests. Specifically made by TMI, which is a subsidiary of Seiko. This is a VK63A with no jewels. But yeah, that's why you have the sweeping second hand there, and you get that really satisfying clunk. It's a movement used by lots of other chronographs, and to be fair, this one is actually fairly well priced. This Marlin chronograph is currently £155 at full RRP in the UK, which I think is a slightly better deal than the other watch. And you have loads of micro brands that do charge a lot more money for watches like this with the mecha quartz inside. Let's get the rear back on. Here's a quick look at the case finishing. On this one, it's pretty much just polishing across the entirety with a 3-facet set of flanks there. So not the most experimental finishing, but it's done reasonably. It's very similar to some of the other first gen Marlin watches when they relaunched the watch in 40mm. So out of the two, this one actually fits me better, but I think this one is probably the better value choice. And it looks more premium despite being slightly cheaper. If there's demand for it, I might get one of our new reviewers on our website to review one of these. But yeah, I look forward to seeing some more Timex watches in the future, especially these newer releases which are just hard to cover on Ben's Watch Club. I'm assuming these are for me to keep, or maybe they're loaners. I'm not sure at this point because they, like I said before, haven't replied. Yeah, cheers to Timex anyway for sending these across, and yeah, we'll see you next time.